Welcome to Final Approach with Chris Gregory. I am a philomath who is somebody who loves to learn things. One of the things that I've learned is that everyone has a tale to tell and a lesson to teach. From pilots to farriers to musicians to authors and creators, I'm going to explore my interests while introducing you to some amazing people. Pre-flight is complete and we have clearance, so let's kick the tires and start the fires. When it comes to teaching and general aviation, Tom Richards is a legend. He's been flying for over 50 years and has thousands more hours in the right seat of an airplane than most pilots will ever have in their lifetime. Cody and I were honored to be amongst those that were able to learn from this great man, and getting the chance to sit across the table from him for this podcast was amazing. Pilot, educator, editor, and author, Tom Richards checks a lot of the boxes of the things that I am interested in. You are in for a treat with this interview. We are cleared for takeoff. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I am sitting here with one of my favorite humans in the world, Tom Richards. He is a famous aviator in our area and probably has taught more people how to fly than, it's just kind of hard to imagine. And he's also one of the calmest men I've ever met. You could be probably crashing and in flames, and he would say, Chris, if you don't mind, we might just ease the nose over just a little bit. So, Tom, thank you for sitting down with me.
You're more than welcome.
Now, you're getting up there in years. Can you tell us how old you are, sir?
Yeah, I'm 86.
86. And I learned to fly from you. I think you were 82 when I was going through it.
It was?
Still a educator. And how many hours flying did you have? Do you know?
A little over 10,000, most of which was teaching people how to fly.
Right. So your right seat, 7,000 of that maybe.
I'd say it was closer to 9,000.
9,000. Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So how did you start flying, sir?
Well, one Saturday morning, I went into the lumber yard, and the owner of it said, Tom, what are you doing this afternoon? Well, I said, I'm going to use your lumber and do something. He said, you want to go flying? I said, what? I said, you want to go flying up to Lake Geneva to the Playboy Club? I said, yeah, of course, I'd love to go flying with you. Because I had never been up in a small airplane, only one time before in the military. So we went flying, flew up to Lake Geneva, had lunch, saw the bunnies. I enjoyed everything and came back and I said, I'm going to fly. It was just a beautiful thing, so I'm going to fly. So I asked my wife if she would like to take a ground school. And she says, what? I says, a ground school where you learn the basics of flying. She said, I don't think so. So I did take it. And then I started flying lessons. And I thought, I better let my wife take some lessons too. So she took a couple. And I was just enthralled. And I took a lot of them. I saw that she was going to drop out. And I said, would you like a new car instead of flying lessons? And thank God she said yes. It wasn't very long after I got my license. I bought an airplane into a club that had 4 people in it. I was the primary flyer, as most clubs are. There's only one person who is usually the primary flyer. And a couple of years later, I was moving to Missouri, and I bought the people out. So it was then just my first airplane that I bought, that I owned completely by myself.
And so what year was this, sir?
This would have been in 1967 or 68.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your powers of persuasion must be pretty good. First, your wife allows you to go to the Playboy Club in a private airplane, and then she allows you to buy a plane. Maybe you should give us some marriage tips.
I can't do that. Obviously, I'm just like you are, Chris. They control the roost.
You working in publishing at the time?
I was working in the publishing industry, yes. Laidlaw Brothers, it was a textbook division of Doubleday and Company. Doubleday bought Laidlaw Brothers out. And so I was working for them for 10 years as an editor and author, a little bit of both. And after 10 years, my profit sharing would come to maturity. So my decision was, we had 2 young boys then, like 5 and 6 years old. I wanted to go someplace away from the city. I was in a Chicago suburb. I wanted to go someplace. So we took that airplane that we're talking about. It was a tripacer airplane. And we started flying to different locations every other weekend. And for about a year, we did this, looking for a farm. And the criteria of the farm was, would there be a place that I could build a runway? That was always my dream. Well, we finally came to Lamar, Missouri, and a person had contacted us. He says, I've got just what you want. Well, we went out riding. We looked at the farm that he suggested. There was no way in the world we could land an airplane. There were rocks and there were hills and all whatever. So we were driving back to town, and he said, I wonder if these people here want to sell their farm. He says, they're getting pretty old. And I said, okay, well, let's go check it out. We just went in blind. And he asked them, could we look at the place? He says, we're looking for property. And they were probably in their 70s then. He said, sure. So we went and walked the property. And ideally, we could put a landing strip there. And so we went home or back to the motel and thought about it. Next morning, we made an offer on it. They accepted it. We flew back that evening back to Chicago, and we'd bought a farm.
I'll be dang. It sounded like it was meant to be, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't have a job either.
And you actually were able to put 2 runways on that property.
That's right. We did. Uh-huh.
Wow. And this is Twin Oaks.
Twin Oaks Airport, and it still is Twin Oaks Airport, yes.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have landed in it, albeit I was sitting behind your wife in the Citabria.
Oh, yes, yes.
I did get to touch wheels on that runway a time or two. What a beautiful spot that is.
Yep, it is.
How far is it from the Lamar Airport?
About 4 miles.
4 miles.
As the bird flies, yes. Uh-huh.
So it's a pretty good place to know about. If you take off from Lamar and you're headed 17, if things go sideways on you, 4 miles to the south, there's another option.
Yes. And we've had people do that, by the way.
Oh, yes. Yeah. If I get to take off into a southerly wind, I always think, well, there's my best option if I get enough altitude to get to it,
Yep. And you're always welcome.
You know what? That's true. Whenever we've pulled in a vehicle as well, I haven't been able to catch you guys naked in the hot tub, but I've always felt very welcome there.
Some people have, actually.
Now, you mentioned being an author, which is something near and dear to my heart, as you know. And so you had some textbooks. Can you tell us about those?
Yeah. When I moved here, the second main guy at Laidlaw Brothers contacted me, and he says, we need some help on some books, some workbooks. And I said, okay. And from that point on, I worked for about 2 years and wrote 10 books, 10 workbooks for him. And then later, we wrote a high school mathematic essentials. I wrote a book on metrics with a guy, Al Kemp. That was done while I was still working for Laidlaw Brothers. So chronology was different there.
And so you were able to kind of have royalties on that for a long time, huh?
Actually, it helped build a hangar and buy airplanes, and it was very, very successful.
Yeah.
The books were workbooks, which are very good to write because they're consumable.
Right.
And so I need to buy one every year.
Yes. Yeah, my textbook, unfortunately, it's a little bit too durable. It would just dissolve every other year.
I understand that.
I guess Gillette, is either Gillette or it was the guy that invented the bottle cap. I can't remember. He said, if you're going to invent something that has to be rebuilt or disposable, so people have to keep buying it. All right, so we just did a quick headphone switch. So, Tom, you probably wore more headphones in your life than I'll ever even see.
I don't know about that, Chris. You've done a lot of different things.
Yes. Have headphones in the airplanes changed a little bit since 1968?
They changed because in the late 60s, we didn't even use headphones. They were too expensive or for the commercial airlines only, So we just yelled at each other in an airplane back then, yeah.
So the planes weren't quieter then?
No, they weren't. No, they were quite noisy. In fact, I attribute that to my hearing loss today.
Oh, okay. Do you suffer some hearing loss?
Yeah, I wear hearing aids.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a friend got some new hearing aids, and he was all excited. And I said, "Well, that's kind of cool. What kind is it?" He said, "About 6 o'clock."
Yeah, they worked well.
In the field of aviation, you've been a pilot, a private pilot. You've been instrument pilot, instrument instructor, and a certified flight instructor. Do you have a commercial ticket as well?
Yeah, you need a commercial ticket in flying. The order is you get a private license, and then you get a commercial license, and then you can get a flight instructor rating on top of that.
So you have to have the commercial before you can do CFI.
Yes.
I guess I did not know that. The CFII is for instrument instructors.
Right.
All right. And have you ever flown commercially as far as like a small airline or helped out Southwest one day or anything?
No, I've not done that. And I wish I had, but I never have done that. I have very little time in a twin engine airplane. I don't have a rating in a twin engine airplane.
Oh, wow. That surprises me.
Yeah, it's all single engine.
And you almost got your seaplane rating, right?
I did. My wife gave me a lesson in Grand Lake. We went up in the seaplane. The first lesson, we spent probably half an hour just taxiing around because that's critical in a seaplane. And then we took off, did some maneuvers, etc., came in and landed. And the second lesson, we went up and we did a few touch and goes on the water and stuff like that. And the third lesson, he didn't show up.
Oh.
And I called him and asked why. And he always gave me an excuse. We had paid him ahead of time $1,000. It was a birthday present from my wife. He would never fulfill his part of it. So
oh, man.
I never got my seaplane rating.
Oh, well, shucks, Tom.
Yeah. I loved it, though. Of course, I love anything aviation.
Yes. Yeah. You said that every landing is different. I can't even imagine how many landings you've had. Have you had any that have been really exciting?
Yeah, quite a few with students sometimes. So with students, you never know what's going to happen until the last moment. So you have to wait, and before you intervene. So sometimes you get some pretty squirrely things going on. Yes.
You never looked, so at least with me or with Cody when I was with you guys together, I never saw your blood pressure go up. I never saw any veins pop out or anything. You're always so even keel.
Well, I've been a calm person, I think, most of the time. Most of it's inside.
So now at one time you had a couple of planes you were telling me and a fella wrecked one of them on the first night. You want to tell that story?
Sure. The mechanic over at Pittsburgh, Kansas, Mac, said he wanted to lease his airplane out. I needed another airplane then. I wanted 3 because I had students. And so I leased the airplane out. The mechanic had a person who worked for him and who had his license. I did not teach him how to fly. But he said, "Tom, when can I rent your airplane?" Which is a mechanic's airplane. I said, "Anytime that you get checked out in it." Well, he got checked out in it. And then the next night he went out. He had a girl and a gentleman in the airplane with him. And this was at midnight. And they were flying. And he went over to his mother's house and he wanted to buzz it. And he did buzz it. And obviously too low. He hit the ground, broke the airplane apart a little bit. It hit it so hard that it went up over the wires and came down on the other side.
Wow.
And of course, I had already put insurance on the airplane. And the next day, I called the insurance agent and I said, "You'll never believe this." I said, "The plane was crashed last night."
Oh, my.
It was sort of a sad affair. A lawsuit got involved. Fortunately, I wasn't involved in the lawsuit, but 2 people were injured a little bit in the airplane crash. So,
man,
it was bad.
Yeah. Have you been in a plane that's crashed?
I have not.
Wow. Have you ever had to make some emergency landings in fields?
Several. I ran out of gas twice, actually. One time in a 172. What I did is I was going to rent this airplane over at Pittsburgh, Kansas. And I went in the hangar and they said, "Oh, it's all gassed up. It's ready to go." I didn't check the gas tanks. They just told me it was filled up. And I took it out. I was fortunately by myself, went up in the airplane. I was wanted to do some maneuvers. I was getting ready for my CFI check ride. And all of a sudden, the engine quit. And then it started up again. Well, when this happens, I climb. So I climbed up, probably 2,000 or 3,000 feet, and the engine quit again. And I looked over at the gas gauges, and instead of saying full, they were on the empty. And one of them was just going back and forth. So the gas gauges were lying to me. Fortunately, I found a nice spot down on the ground to land. Unfortunately, it was about 2 miles away from any farmstead. So I had to walk back 2 miles.
Oh, my.
To get a phone. We didn't have phones back then. Walked back there, called the airport, told them that this silly thing ran out of gas. He said, okay, where you at? So he put some gas in his truck, and we came out, put it in the airplane, flew it back to the airport.
As far as flying, just as a private pilot, what do you think is the most important personality trait for a young pilot to have?
Oh, boy, that's a hard one.
Well, or even what's the personality trait that they definitely should not have?
Well, that's a little bit easier to answer.
Right, I thought it might be.
Yeah, the macho person, and I've had several, who says, I can do anything. Like a youngster, teenager, they can do anything, so they're not worried about dying. That's probably the worst thing if they're a macho type personality, other than what a good personality is if they have a desire to learn and want to fly. I guess it's not a personality so much as an income thing. If a student wants to fly and daddy pays for it, they're the poorest pilots and able to train them. Now, all of a sudden, if you find a student who doesn't have any money but wants to fly, there's no daddy involved to give them money, and they have to work for the money, and each dollar spent on the flying lesson is a dollar they can't do something else with, they're the best pilots I've found out to be.
Yep. So we quit taking any kind of financial aid at the school. With a horseshoe school student, those that are writing the check, they are willing to work.
Yeah.
If someone else is paying for it, it loses some value.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Very much so.
What about a common myth in aviation? Is there any common myths or any misconceptions about aviation that you can think of?
It's more dangerous driving to the airport than it is in flying, getting a flight. And that's sort of a myth in my mind, because flying is dangerous, can be very dangerous. But you as an instructor, the primary thing is to make sure that they can take care of any problem that might evolve, whether it's running out of gas, which should never happen to somebody, like it has happened to most of us every once in a while. So the primary thing in flying is safety. What do I do if?
Yep.
As you can well remember, we did a lot of
we talked about
emergencies, and everything was safety.
Did I tell you my running out of gas story?
No.
Oh, well, Tom, you're going to be mad at me, but I think I should share this. We were going to take off from Lamar and put fuel. Cody's plane holds 84 gallons, and we had about 45-ish, and I was going to fill up all the way because Kelly and I were headed to New Mexico. The pumps were not working, as they often are not.
I see we got new gas pumps out here now.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we tried to fill up and couldn't get it done. And so I told Kelly, well, we'll land in Alva, and that would be just pretty easy. And we'll fill up and we'll carry on. Well, right before Alva, maybe 10 miles, the cloud started building under us. And so I was over the cloud deck. This was my first year after my private pilot. I was about 80, 90 hours of pilot. And so we're getting into Alva, and I decided to go into the clouds and see if I can get down. Well, I get into it, and it's just uncomfortable. So I get back out, and we're back on top of the cloud deck, and we're flying. And God bless Kelly. She's so calm. There's nothing's going to bother her. I go ahead and use one tip tank. There's a couple gallons in it. And the engine dies, so I switch to the other tip tank. Engine dies, and the clouds are still between us and the ground. And then I'm on the third tank. Engine dies. I'm on my last tank. And I tell her, I said, hon, we're in a little bit of a pinch here. We've got to get to Guyman. That's my last hope, really. And there is a B-51 bomber also on the line with traffic control that's coming into Guyman. And I'm on air traffic control, 87908 Whiskey. I am above the clouds. I need to go through the clouds to land in Guyman. He says, are you an instrument pilot on an instrument plane? I said, well, the plane's instrument, but I'm not instrument rated. He said, I can't recommend it. I said, sir, I'm going to do it with the engines running or the engine's dead. So I have to do it. He says, can you make it? I think it was Elk City or something he wanted me to go to. And I didn't feel like I could. I had already killed the engine 3 times, and I didn't want to do it again because I had no more options.
Right.
I said, I'm going to have to go. He said, you want to declare an emergency? I said, I really don't. So anyway, we're flying, and at the edge of Guyman, 3 miles from Guyman, the clouds quit like they were cut with a knife. And there's Guyman ahead of us. It was a God thing. So anyway, I'm 8798 Whiskey. I see the airport. I'm coming in. The B-51 said, hey, 8798 Whiskey, can you go around once? Because, they're coming in with 4 engines just cranking. And I said, sir, I don't think I can, but I will hit and get off as fast as I could. I landed. I got off. They came in behind me. We put 77 gallons in an 84-gallon plane. And, there's 4 tanks, and each one has like 1.5 gallons of unusable fuel in it.
Oh, yeah.
So in reality, I don't think I could have gone around and not made it.
Yeah, probably not.
It was a very good lesson.
Yeah. In aviation, you get a lot of good lessons.
Yes.
Or, as I say, learning experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that I have an instrument ticket, I understand just how dangerous what I tried to do at Alva was. And I could tell as soon as I got into the clouds and I was surrounded by clouds, things felt bad. And I didn't want to risk it. But, hindsight, I should have broke back out, flown back 20 miles where I knew there was going to be another place to land for fuel. It wouldn't have made as good a story.
Indeed, it wouldn't have. No. To get your private license, everybody has to have at least 3 hours of instrument training.
Yes.
Think what would have happened if you did not have that 3 hours even going up and down in the clouds. They say that a person will lose it within a minute if they don't have any instrument training.
Yep. I'm not surprised. And the instrument ticket was, it was astounding. To be honest, when I got my private license, I didn't know what I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
How you were able to ever release me to go take my check ride, I don't know. But but I learned a lot going through that process, You
learn every time you go up in an airplane.
Yep.
It's not I learned how to fly. I can fly now. No, you're just continuing your education every time you go up and fly.
Yep.
And enjoyment goes along with it, though. You continually enjoy even more and more and more.
Yep.
I tell people that I've never gone up in an airplane, and I've done it many times, that I haven't enjoyed it. But it's like a classroom. I've never gone into a classroom to teach that I didn't enjoy it. It's just my thing.
It's phenomenal. Your first wife died.
Yes. She died from cancer after we were married 30 years.
Wow. And so how did you meet Diana, your current wife?
Well, about 3 years before she died, Diana wanted to start flying lessons again because when she was 16 years old, she sold an airplane over at Pittsburgh. Then she ran out of money. Of course, she got married then and had a child and everything. And by the way, she got her nursing degree and everything during that time. Years later, she wanted to fly again. All of a sudden, she had a little bit of money. And she lived over in Pittsburgh and said, went out to the airport, where's the flying instructor? He said, we don't have any. Well, where's an airplane I can learn how to fly in? They said, Tom Richards over at Lamar teaches, and he takes on some students. She called me, and I said, sure, yeah, let's meet. How about next Saturday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? I'll meet you at the airport. She drove into the airport. I was sitting in outside an open hangar. And of course, as accustomed to my teaching, I was wearing bib overalls, farmer overalls. I had a T-shirt on. She tells me now that it was had holes in it and everything. She drove up, got out of the car, came over, and she said, "Where's the flight instructor, Tom Richards?" She thought I was the groundskeeper and I was just taking a break from mowing the grass. I said, "Well, I'm Tom Richards." And I could just see her smile go to, Anyway, we started flying that day, had a great time, and she got her license over a period of time then she helped me an awful lot right then because I told her about my wife having cancer, and she gave me a lot of helpful advice, told me what to expect because it was terminal. And I can't tell you how much it was helpful. Anyway, my wife died. Then Diana and I sort of got, hey, maybe we should get together. And of course, I was a little bit hesitant on it because I'm a little bit older than she is, like 17 years. But we talked about it and fell in love, and we've had 33 years together, and they've been some of the best years of my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great story. You were blessed to have two women in your life like that, weren't you?
I really am. Yes, very much so.
And if I remember right, you were going to be a priest.
Yeah, that lasted for a little bit. Well, a priest came into Darlington, Wisconsin to give a retreat. This one happened to come from St. Louis. He was from the Passionist priesthood. During the retreat, he came into the fourth grade, and, he's going to talk to the fourth graders here and about religion, but he was also a magician, which was pretty smart of him because we would all pay attention to the magic, enjoyed the magic a lot. And then he gave us he talked about religion, which was great too. And from that point on, I was intrigued by magic. He offered to help teach me. So he taught me some magic. And for about 4 years, we would get together. I would take a train up to Minnesota, and there would be about 5 of us kids that would meet there. And he would teach us magic and do the religion and everything. And then I finally thought, maybe I should be a priest. I went down to the Passionist Preparatory Seminary in St. Louis, lasted a year, enjoyed the whole thing. But really, when I was taking the train home to Darlington, I thought, I think I like girls too much to be a priest.
I certainly could not fault you there, Tom. You've been retired for many years, but for you to be so successful, did you have a special morning routine, or how did you accomplish everything you accomplished?
I don't know, really. But my morning routine is very similar. I get up between 4 and 5 o'clock. I go downstairs, I have a cup of coffee, take a coffee in with me, and read for about 2 hours. Could be just about anything. A lot of the news, books, one which you gave me.
Oh, yeah, Ernest K. Gans.
Yeah, and that was a great book.
If you are a pilot, it's called Fate is the Hunter by Ernest K. Gans, and it should be essential reading for a pilot, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And Tom's also read, I have a little memoir that he read, and then he's read the second one. The first one's For the Want of a Nail, the shoe was lost. The second one's For the Want of the shoe, the horse was lost. I guess 2 hours a day reading, you can get a lot of reading done, huh?
You can, yes. And I enjoy it.
Well, excellent, sir. If you could have coffee with a historical figure, who would you choose?
If I could meet somebody, I think it'd be the Wright brothers. Yeah, I really do. Orville and Wilbur. I think they were such pioneers and such incredible people to be able to make something that would go up in the air and fly what was the first flight, 100 feet or so?
Yeah, Kitty Hawk, yeah. Have you read their biographies? I'm sure you have.
Yes. Have you read The Bishop's Son?
I have not.
It's about the Wright brothers.
Oh, okay. They sound like they were quite the interesting people, didn't they?
Yes. Bicycle mechanics.
Yep. Maybe socially, maybe not very adept.
I think one was and one wasn't, or something like that, if I remember, yeah.
They would be a good pair to meet. Well, if you could be remembered for something, Tom, what would you like for that to be?
Well, you won't believe this, Chris, but I told Diana about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I've got to write an obituary. I'm not going to live too many more years. So about the last 3 weeks, believe it or not, we've been working on an obituary.
Oh, my.
I think if I could be remembered for anything, that you're able to say, he was a good man.
Well, I think that'll go without saying. I think you checked that box.
That's what I want to be remembered by.
Well, excellent, Tom. All right. So now we call this Kelly's contribution. And so can you teach me something?
Sure. Aviation. I'll try to make a picture for you. We're coming into land, and we usually land into the wind. And if we're coming in, the airplane looks like, oh, yeah, it's just going down right to the runway, you level off, and then all of a sudden you pull the nose up just a slight bit, and the main wheels hit first, and you pull the power out, and everything is very nice and comfortable. But let's say it's a windy day. The wind wasn't up very much when you left. The wind isn't coming right down the runway for your benefit. It's coming to the side. Well, if you were flying in and coming down straight to the runway, the airplane straight to the runway, it's going to be blown one way or the other off the runway. It's very difficult to keep that lined up. So what you have to do is crab it. Now, crab is sort of a funny name for this, but what you do is you don't come down straight to the runway, but you come down sort of sideways, a little bit to the left or right. And so it looks like you're going to land on the left side of the runway.
And your nose is pointing into the crosswind, correct?
Your nose is pointing into the wind. Yes, it is. But you can't land that way. You'd pop the tires and turn the airplane upside down. So then you are taught to straighten it out. Well, you straighten it out by pushing the right foot. Let's say the wind's coming from the left. You push the right rudder, and all of a sudden the nose is straight with the runway. And then it does what? It just goes right off the runway to the right because the wind blows you that way. So you need to do two things. When you come down, you have to straighten the nose out so it's going down the runway, and you have to stop the drift. So that means you have to put the left wing down a little bit, or a lot if the wind is strong. And so you're going to come in and you level off, and then you're going to land, in this case, on the left wheel first, and then the right wheel, and then the nose wheel. It's a very, I won't say complicated skill, but it's one that everybody has to be, they can do it with their eyes closed. That's not really true. But they have to be so comfortable to do it, be able to do it, because they're going to be in crosswinds most of the time.
That was beautiful. Guys, if you have never had a good description of a crosswind landing, bookmark this one, because that was fantastic, Tom. All right. So did you want to try a joke?
Well, remember that story a little bit where I ran out of gas?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I didn't tell you in the beginning that when you pre-flight an airplane, especially in the dark, you take a flashlight and you look at this, you look at that. You visually look at the fuel in there. So you open both caps and you get your flashlight and look down in there. And, well, I did that, sort of. I forgot my flashlight. So what happened was I got up there in the ladder and opened it up. And at that time I smoked. And I had some matches in my pocket. And then I got one out and I thought, no, you can't be this stupid. I said, they told you had gas in the gas tank. I believe it. You believe it. I was wrong. I should have not forgot my flashlight. Not a joke, but a true thing.
Well, Tom, is there any questions that you wish I would have asked? Is there anything you would like to say to the world or for me to cover?
Well, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
You're a man of many talents. What got you into podcasting?
Well, It's kind of interesting, but I have a friend named Brian Mullins. He has Mullins Farrier podcast, and even non-farriers will enjoy this. Brian's got a great voice and a great personality, and he's fun to spend time with, whether you get to do it in person or in this media. So he was a huge inspiration and a big help, and he introduced me to Heather, the producer of this thing. So that allows me to do it without having to know everything about how to do it. So that's been a great resource. And it is just opening up the world. Besides, there's no one else doing it, so I thought I might as well try.
Good for you. You're the perfect person for it, Chris. You really are.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's nice of you to say. Tom, it has been a true blessing to get to know you, and I can't thank you enough for spending the time to visit with me, and I can't thank you enough for teaching me how to fly. I feel so honored to be one of the last of the Tom Richards generation.
Well, you're more than welcome, and I enjoyed every time we went up. You and Blueberry.
Yeah, Blueberry. I'm like 580 hours now, and Blueberry is about 550. And by the way, we are sitting in the Tom Richards hangar. So, it's not only do I get to interview the man, but I get to sit in the hangar. It's named after him. What an honor, huh?
Yes, it is. It was a day and a half. I can't believe that happened.
It feels good to feel good. Of course, I can't jump off a tailgate and land flat-footed on the ground like I once did, but apart from joints, my innards feel good when I eat good. And man, I can really tell the difference on those days when I don't fuel my body with great food. You'll feel that difference too once you start eating good protein that was produced the way the good Lord intended. Animals that are raised eating non-GMO grains and grass that hasn't been sprayed with insecticides or pesticides are expensive and hard to raise. But that doesn't matter to CJW Pinot Ranch. They're willing to do what it takes to create the food that they want to feed their children and allow you access to their amazing product. Visit cjwpinotranch.net today to start improving the way you feel.